Today, I've come back down to Clumpfab. The white rally car is now on the lift. Really freshens it up, the stone guard. What's the crack with that there? Is that so they knew in the factory what part that was? As you can see, the face is now perfectly flat. And then we'll chuck this in the back of Roger, the plastic Fiesta van. I'm not going to be able to get this thing running and driving. Didn't have any gasket seal ups. And I've just noticed something that may be another reason why we're getting this issue where the prop shaft seems to be hitting the underside of the car. Gap more so than there is here. So this is going to be awkward now. Yes. Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes and today I've come back down to Clumpfab. Hello again, Chris. What's it been, 4 days?
Not long at all.
Not long at all. Thank you so much for getting Maude's cylinder head done so quickly. Really, really appreciate it. Now, before we have a look at what Chris has been up to for me, he has had a bit of a shuffle around in here since we came down here the other day, and the white rally car is now on the lift, so let's see what he's been up to. So you're saying this will be going back to the owner soon?
Yeah, so I'm just on the final stages now. Just had its under seal. So I'm just reassembling it.
Underneath looking really fresh, thanks to a coat of this stone guard stuff. Atlas axle is going back on. I think that's what you was doing when I arrived, was it?
Just putting it all back together.
It's a really cool spec, this car. You can see its rear disc brake conversion, obviously. The coilovers on the back. Atlas axle with a proper brace. Braided brake lines and stuff. Awesome. And yeah, really freshens it up. Getting the stone guard done on the underneath. And yeah, that is a service that Chris does on quite a lot of cars I've seen on his social media. So yeah, if you need anything like that doing, he's the man to get in touch with. And the E-Type Jag is closer to the light, so we can see it a bit better than we did last time. Definitely needs loads of work on the inside. The whole driver's side floor is missing. That driver's side door looks hanging. Yeah, look at the outside of the passenger side as it is on this car door, because it's a left-hand drive.
And it's got to be saved because he can't find one.
Really?
Yeah, he's got an outer skin.
Yeah.
But like everything else has got to be repaired on it.
All this inner part of the door has got to be repaired. I've seen you do jobs like that on, you know, Escort doors and stuff like.
Yeah, we'll soon get it done.
Yeah. The Fiat that was on the lift last time, it was up, so we couldn't see it properly. We can get a better look at that as well. This is the one that's going to be fitted with Mazda MX-5 running gear. That kind of reminds me of how an Escort looks, you know, with like the tunnel and then you've got that bracing bit.
Yeah,
I suppose
it's pretty similar, isn't it?
A lot of cars are the same, I suppose, but really tall gearbox tunnel. Is that wood?
Yeah.
Kind of looks like a Cortina steering wheel.
I think he's keeping the inside as sort of retro-ish as possible, so he will be keeping wooden steering wheel and stuff, although I think he did mention he might be changing it for a Nardi wooden one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But yeah, and I'm certain he wants to keep all the dash and dials as well.
Yeah, some serious cracking on that dash.
Yeah.
Even these wipers, they look very Mark 1 Escort-esque to me.
All similar, aren't they?
Yeah. That's mad. What's the crack with that there? Is that so they knew in the factory what part that was?
Oh no, it's a bit weird that is.
Very strange.
Someone signed this door obviously from when they done it.
Sanet, 22nd of the 11th, 88. Actually really like these rims.
Oh, he's only just put them on temporary to move it.
Oh really? Oh, I like them. I think they look cool. Bit battered.
They're off. I'm sure he said they're off of a possibly a Cinquecento Sporting or something like that. I can't remember now.
I do like them because they're, you know, they're sort of spokey but they're also dished.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Really cool. But yeah, in general, this is actually a really cool shaped car.
This would be a good one to follow this well because he's going mad with it.
So you're looking forward to getting your teeth
sunk
sunk
into it. Yeah, looking forward to doing this, I've got the metal down there to make a jig for it. So.
All right, cool. Oh.
Some RSJ to make a jig because obviously changing the subframes around, I need to keep it all straight.
Yeah, I can see you've done the inside of the wings for the Escort as well in that stone guard stuff. Awesome stuff. Oh, speaking of the white Escort, the front cross member and front legs are over here on the floor, which obviously would have been removed so that you can do the stone guard as well. Now, I'm sure you probably want to carry on reassembling this, so let's have a look at Maude's cylinder head. All right, so you ended up doing the actual cylinder head that did come off of Maude in the end?
Yeah, it was all good in the end. It weren't cracked or nothing like that.
So yeah, first you would have done a crack test to make sure it's worth doing it.
Was all right, and then I sort of stripped all the valves down, cleaned it all up, relapped them in, changed your stem seals, put it all back together. I vacuum tested it, made sure none of them were leaking.
Yeah.
then finally skimmed and quick sonic clean.
Yeah, and you're saying it was a little bit warped. It's had about 9 foul skimmed off it.
9 foul off it in the end to get it flat, yeah.
So that, and you were saying that's a little bit more than the average amount.
Yeah, normally 5 to 6 on an average one, so my guess is you've got it pretty warm.
Right, okay. So maybe a tiny bit more compression.
Yeah,
but,
not enough to notice. Anyway,
yeah. So. No, that's cool. Well, I suppose we'll have a look at the underneath. As you can see, the face is now perfectly flat. Chris has relapped all the valves in, so yeah, that's good to go. I'll just give it a thorough brake clean before it goes back on the engine. But yeah, no, that's awesome. Still got this other cylinder head which came off of INSTA, so I suspect this one isn't warped or anything. In other news, Chris has drilled out the sleeves for Maude's anti-tramp bar poly bushes, so the bolt actually fits in there. And I'm going to leave the strut brace brackets with Chris, and he can do those when he gets a chance. Absolutely in no hurry for them. Esther will probably be off the road until next year now anyway. So, but yeah, thanks again for getting this done so quickly.
No worries.
Really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll get these out of your way and then we'll hit the road. Right, I'll just wrap this up. And then we'll chuck this in the back of Roger, the plastic Fiesta van. I almost forgot the camshafts. Chris has put them up in his office. Don't want to forget me polybush sleeves. I'm actually going to leave this cylinder head here with Chris and get him to refurbish this one as well. Just need to send him the valve stem seals. I'll be able to order them off the Burton Power website and just get them sent straight here to Clumpfab. All right, Chris, thanks again for your hard work and for fitting it in at such short notice. Really appreciate it. Might actually make this drift day in just over a week now. Can't leave without giving you a couple of gifts.
I appreciate that.
Maude t-shirt and one of the new air fresheners. Small token of my appreciation.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, I'll see you soon. Take it easy.
No worries.
Well, what an absolute legend Chris is for getting the cylinder head refurbed so quickly. He is such a busy bloke, and there's actually quite a long waiting list for people that want him to do welding and fabrication and restoration. In fact, I've been in a long queue waiting for Maude to have her next bit of welding. Actually going to be taking Maude there next February. Now don't forget, if you need any cylinder head work doing, Chris is offering 10% off to anyone that watches this channel. So get in touch with him, mention my name and save yourself some dough. I'll leave all the links in the description to Clumpfab's social media. I'll leave his phone number and email address down there as well. And I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description. Although with him being so busy, he doesn't get to post videos up there as regularly as he would like. Now, me and my beautiful girlfriend Kat are going to go and visit my parents this afternoon. But I'm going to continue this video next time I'm around the garage with Maude, when I'll be putting her engine back together. Hello, into a new day, and I've had some bits through the post, which mean I can now crack on with fitting the refurbished cylinder head back to Maude. But there is something that hasn't come through the post yet, which means I'm not going to be able to get this thing running and driving quite yet. So the bits that have come through the post are the new head gasket and head bolts, and this is exactly the same kit that I fitted to Esther when I fitted her ported cylinder head recently. And the bit that hasn't come through the post yet is the cam belt kit. But there's loads of stuff to fit onto the engine before we get to the cam belt, so still plenty to do. Now I have already fitted a couple of bits to the refurbished cylinder head. I've got the water rail bolted on with my homemade gasket. I've also refitted the old thermostat in there, and that's because when I took it home and tested it, it worked absolutely fine. You'll see that I've already put the inlet and exhaust studs into the head, and I've just fitted the cam sensor. Now I've already given the underside of the head a clean, but I will be giving it another one before I put it onto the engine. And I've already given the bottom end another clean, and I've hoovered the bores out again. You just need to put these dowels in place, like that. And then we can unwrap the new head gasket and chuck that on. I think it goes that way. Yep, looking good. And yeah, I'll just carefully give the underside of the head another clean, and then we can dump this onto the engine. Yep, I think she's on. Right, that's the first of many steps. So let's cue the music and crack on with this. After hooking up the heater hose to the water rail at the back of the head, I removed all the cam caps, making sure that I kept them in the correct order. I then oiled up the threads on the head bolts, following some advice from you guys in the comments recently, then dropped the head bolts into their holes and tightened them up, following the sequence and the torque settings that came with my head gasket. I then laid the camshafts in, making sure that they were roughly where they would be when the engine's at TDC, and I removed the camshaft pulleys so that I could make sure that the cam seals were seated correctly when the time came. After pouring a bit of oil over the camshafts, I reinstalled all the cam caps, but then I realised that I didn't have any gasket sealer to finalise fitting the cam seal carrier at the front. I torqued up all the cam caps but left the seal carrier untorqued. Then I turned each camshaft with my mole grips so that I could get my timing tool in the slots in the back of the cams, and then I loosely refitted the cam pulleys. Next up, I decided to thoroughly clean the rocker cover because it was still filled with milky oil from the head gasket failure. Then I laid it on top of the engine to keep any debris out, and then fitted the inlet manifold gasket and the inlet manifold. Next, I slid the bike carbs onto the inlet manifold, attached the brace, and tightened up all the Jubilee clips that hold the bike carbs to the inlet manifold. Next to go on was the exhaust manifold, and then back around the inlet side of the engine, I reattached the coil pack underneath the inlet manifold. At this point, Maude's engine was starting to look like an engine again, so I hooked up things like the engine breathers and the electrical connectors and the battery earth wire, and I reattached the washer bottle to the passenger side inner wing. Alright, well, I think I've done pretty much everything I can now until I get the cam belt. Another thing I realised that I didn't have was gasket sealer, because I need to put a little bit on the underside of this just at the front. So I'll get some gasket sealer, then I'll pull the pulleys back off again, take that off, seal it, put it back on, then I'll make sure that the cam seals are in properly and then put the pulleys back on, just to prevent me having the same issues I had with Esther with her cam seals leaking. But yeah, definitely made progress today. So yeah, I can definitely see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now I think I've probably got an hour or maybe two of daylight left, and I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that it doesn't rain again, because I want to pull Maude out and refit her anti-tramp bars before I leave here today. Alright, so I've just been looking under Maude's rear end, which I've been doing quite a lot lately, and I've just noticed something that may be another reason why we're getting this issue where the prop shaft seems to be hitting the underside of the car. Now this doesn't appear to be coming across on camera as much as I can see it with my eyes, but basically you've got the U-bolts here that obviously clamp the axle to the leaf springs. Stacked in between there I've got a lowering block. These leaf springs were decambered, and I've got a small lowering block in there as well. Now this piece here definitely looks like there's a gap between it and the leaf spring here, more so than there is here. So in theory the axle's being clamped down onto the leaf springs, but the axle is, you know, twisted this way. Now I did check the nuts on these U-bolts recently, as I mentioned in a recent video, but that was sort of, you know, just before I was leaving my other garage. I just sort of leant under the car and, you know, tried a couple of the nuts with a spanner, and they seemed tight. But to my eyes, this definitely seems like the front two need tightening more, and that might require me to loosen the back two first. But yeah, that will definitely cause the axle and the diff to be facing upwards, and then, you know, when you go over bumps and stuff, that could be what's causing my issues. So yeah, I'm going to bang the anti-tramp bars back on first, and yeah, then have a look at the nuts on them U-bolts. So chuck the bushes into the anti-tramp bars. Sweet. And now these will actually work, because Chris at Clumpfab drilled out the sleeves for me. So this is going to be awkward now. What I'm going to have to do, poke a screwdriver through the bracket and through the sleeve in the bush, put some strain on this screwdriver to pull the anti-tramp bar closer to the axle so that the hole will line up, because I can't get a bolt in at the moment. It's in a little bit. Yes. Jack it up a bit so the axle is under tension. One down, one to go. Alright, so the passenger side anti-tramp bar went in a little bit easier. Now what I've actually done both sides is I've used my hammer to basically tighten the bracket, because it just seemed like, you know, potentially that anti-tramp bar could move on the bush. Yeah, I don't know if, you know, maybe the bit of the bush that sits on the outside of the anti-tramp bar maybe isn't thick enough. But again, this isn't a genuine Ford anti-tramp bar, and those bushes are designed to fit a genuine Ford one. So yeah, hopefully, you know, that little bodge there will keep things a bit tighter than they would otherwise have been. But yeah, maybe I need to look at getting some different bushes for these eventually. Now, as for what I plan to do with these U-bolt nuts, I think what I'm actually going to do, I've got to go to Halford today anyway, I'm going to grab a 16mm socket that's long enough to go over those studs, which I lazily haven't cut down. At the end of the day, I need to get back under here to get the exhaust mounted a bit better. Although, as it happens, I'm unable to actually make it hit the tramp bar at the moment. But yeah, I definitely want to have a look at how the exhaust is mounted anyway. Might be able to improve how the actual back box is mounted as well. But yeah, for now, I mean, well, it's getting dark, so I'm done. I'm covered in filth. But yeah, progress has been made. Hello, so it's been a couple of days since the last clip, and since then I've been to Halford's and picked up a super deep 16mm socket, and I've already tested to see if it's deep enough to get onto those nuts on the U-bolts on Maude's axle. And I'm actually really happy that I found that issue with her axle, because I was a bit sceptical, to be honest, that the worn poly bushes in themselves would have been causing the issues I've been having. But yeah, I'm quite confident that the fact that the diff is essentially poking upwards all the time would cause that issue. And now that I've got a deep socket, I'll easily be able to, you know, buzz off all 4 nuts on each side and then do them up evenly to make sure that the axle is, you know, sitting how it should be. I also picked up some instant gasket that I'm going to use to put on the cam seal carrier on Maude's engine. And I've also now finally got my new cam belt. So it means in the next video, I'll be able to get the car fully back together and get her back on the road. And I'll let you hold me to that. Now, before I end this video, I want to send another massive thanks out to Kember at Clumpfab for doing such an awesome job on Maude's cylinder head. And don't forget, if any of you guys need any rust repair, restoration, fabrication doing, or maybe you've got a CAD drawing that you need cutting out on his CNC plasma cutter, or if you need any cylinder head work doing, definitely get in touch with Kember at Clumpfab. I'll leave all his links in the description of this video. And don't forget, for the cylinder head work, you can save yourself 10% by mentioning my name. So that's all I've got for this video. If you did think it was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to keep up to date with all my future uploads. And I'll leave links to my social media in the description for any of you guys that want to follow me on there. I'll leave a link to my own website where you can check out my regular blog posts or get your hands on some official Marcus Hayes merchandise. I'll leave a link to my Patreon in the description for any of you guys that want to support me in that way. Massive, massive thanks, as always, to all my patrons. And for anyone who wants to contact me, my email address will be in the description as well. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.